Sir Thomas Bouch did not feel bound by convention. Whilst other engineers drove their railways under the Pennines, Bouch pushed his circuitously over the hills, connecting industries on both sides via a summit at Stainmore, 1,370 feet above sea level. The route boasted England's highest railway viaduct, erected in no time from Meccano-like components, but dismantled in haste when the political visionaries of the 1960s could see little future for rail, or at least chose not to. The line's loss had real community impacts, not least in Kirkby Stephen, where young Anne Craddock found adventure as the niece of a signalman, under careful supervision, of course.
My uncle had hens on the line side, so I used to go with him after Sunday school to feed the hens. But I often, if there was an excursion, I would often go with Uncle into the signal cabin, and so I learned to pull the signals that I could pull, because some of them were long ones and I hadn't the strength to pull those. And of course Uncle used to make bacon and egg on the shovel on the fire, which was fabulous, the best bacon and egg ever. And I was going to be a signalman person.
Two tracks became one to the west of Kirkby Stephen as the South Durham and Lancashire Union ventured towards T-Bay. With even that track now gone, nature has reclaimed the route through the steep wooded slopes of Smardale Gill. There are orchids here in the summer: bird's-eye primrose, melancholy thistle, horseshoe vetch, redstart, wood warbler, pied flycatcher. The clouded magpie butterfly visits. But then, as views of the sky resume, the landscape is further blessed by mankind's handiwork. This is the middle of nowhere, but in the late 1850s, early 1860s, the scene would have been breathtakingly industrial, as navvies employed by Henry Rigg brought stone from Mr. Wakefield's nearby quarry to erect Smardale Gill Viaduct, 14 arches, each 30 feet in span, and carrying its railway 92 feet over Scandal Beck. The cost? Just £11,298. Ambition and enterprise succumbed to the motorcar's impact in 1962, the line's closure prompting a decline in the viaduct's condition. Masonry was falling from several of the piers, and by the 80s it was earmarked for demolition. But British Rail's funding for the scheme was instead put towards a £350,000 programme of repairs, the shortfall being made up of grants raised by the newly formed Northern Viaduct Trust, which formally assumed ownership of the structure in 1992, following the completion of remedial works, the installation of handrails and a new deck. It's been accessible ever since to adventurers on foot, but the asset continues to issue periodic demands for attention.
The weather, as you will know from standing here, the weather howls down this valley. It's a pretty good day today. It's just a little bit of rain, I would say a bit of a breeze. Some would say it's quite windy, and rain gets in regardless of what you do. Even when it's pointed, rain will get in. It finds a way in and it sits there. And stone structures deteriorate without constant expensive work.
The latest phase of the viaduct's evolution got underway in June with a project to remove vegetation, improve the drainage and make the deck watertight again, preventing ongoing damage to the masonry below. The £300,000 cost has been met through funding from the Railway Heritage Trust, the Benny Walker Charitable Trust and the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority's Sustainable Development Fund. Supporters, including mountaineer Alan Hinks, have also contributed through the sponsored climbing of 14 nearby fells. Carrying out the work and overcoming the challenges of a site that's over a mile from the nearest road is Story Contracting.
Our biggest challenge is getting fresh water. When the farmer's been good and he's let us use the water spring, but when you fill an IBC with the water spring, it's an hour. We could bring nothing up here any wider than 6 foot because we weren't allowed to encroach onto the grass verges because of the Argos butterfly that habitats here. So every time we get concrete, we're limited to 2 metres delivery every time.
8 weeks' work should slow the deterioration of this Grade 2 listed viaduct by better managing the water falling on its deck. But this is only phase 1. Stonework to at least 3 of the piers then needs attention to prevent it becoming unsafe. Fundraising is already underway. The nation's disused railway infrastructure imposes costly, onerous and unrelenting obligations on its custodians. But this historical legacy brings benefits too, both social and economic. As a landscape asset, Smardale Gill Viaduct is rivalled by few, and its appearance should soon be even more eye-catching, thanks to the care currently being lavished on it.